Welcome to the FundForum Asia 2012, sitting here with Jaime de la Barra, who runs Compass Group out of Santiago de Chile. I'm Daniel Enskat, running the Global Consulting for Strategic Insight. Jaime, it's a pleasure to see you here. Last time I saw you was Sao Paulo.
Yes.
So what's interesting is that you come all the way from Santiago de Chile, but the region is not really new for you. You have had business here, you've done work here. How familiar are you with the region? What are some of the connections?
Actually, the region is not new to us at all, and this stems from the very early interest in the region from our largest clients. Our largest clients are Chilean pension funds and sophisticated private investors. Mm-hmm. And since I would say before the Asian crisis, the ties between Chile and Asia were pretty significant. And actually, Chile was kind of deemed the tiger of Latin America. Yeah, obviously, that was garbage, but we felt that Chile was close to Asia. So when Chilean pension funds started to invest outside of Chile, because the Chilean market was kind of a straitjacket for them, because the pension funds were growing faster than what the local capital market was. The first destination, and I remember back in 1995 when I was working for Santander, we did a trip to London and to Boston, New York, Chicago, looking for emerging markets managers. Yeah. So the relationship between us and Asia has been very deep since those days. And currently,
if you think about it, in Asia, when we look at the data of the Chilean pension funds, in the US and Europe they have some index exposure, but a lot of Asia themes are used by pension funds. So the majority of investments probably has an Asia connection, correct?
Absolutely, and actually if you look at the numbers, as you said, out of the $150 billion that Chilean pension funds manage, probably between, it depends on the dates, but anywhere between 40 and 50% are invested outside of Chile, and out of that probably 60 billion, I would say more than 50% of that is Asia. Yep. And it's mostly equities. Yep. And that is mostly because what these pension funds are looking for are ways of getting exposure to where the growth is. And actually, as you were saying, the exposure to Europe is almost zero. Yeah. The exposure to the US is closer to 15%, but it's mostly done through passive strategies. So on the active side, on the active asset allocation that they do, Asia plays a very important role. Latin America also plays an important role, and Eastern Europe. So
it's very interesting because a couple of things are happening at the moment. So when you look at BTG Pactual buying Selfin, to build out more of their business, when you're looking at your work out of Chile, but also Peru and Colombia, which is following the Chilean lead. And then at the same time, if you look at Itaú has been going to Japan, because the Brazilian real and the interest on this in a high yield context has been very important for Japanese investors. So these emerging market bridges, is this again a reason for you to be here, to educate, to talk about the Andean Three? Or
absolutely. I think that obviously the Brazilian story, and this has been since the BRIC acronym was created, and obviously has a lot to do with the size of these four economies. Brazil has attracted most of the attention, and we as Latin American investors obviously look at Brazil, and we have regional equity funds that invest, more than 50% of the assets are invested in Brazil, and we cover Brazil from Argentina. We have extensive research on our asset management side of Brazil. What we have, in a way, discovered since, I would say, almost 6 years ago, is that the story of the Peruvian and Colombian markets is extremely interesting, because one thing that Brazil obviously has is the exposure to commodities, but Brazil has been a little bit slower on the internal structural reform side. And Peru and Colombia have the commodity side, but have been much more aggressive on the structural reform side. So Peru, for example, is last GDP growth number was 7.2% year on year. So Peru has been one of the fastest growing economies in the world on the back of the commodity boom and the structural reforms. So we are very excited about the what's going on in the Andean region.
What do you think? Last question around that. For you and for Compass Group, you've grown tremendously in the last couple of decades. For Asia, what do you think is the biggest opportunity for you?
I think for what I've learned from several trips to Asia, looking at it from an investor point of view, I think that the corporate debt market in Latin America is very interesting for Asian investors, since they're looking for yield. Latin American corporate debt offers a very interesting quality yield combination. For example, in a portfolio of a high yielding corporate bonds in Latin America, you can achieve, I don't know, anything between 7.5% and 8.5% in terms of yield to maturity in dollars. So that is extremely interesting, and the quality of the issuers in the region has improved significantly in the last 15 years, coming from a very strong base, because when global investors were shying away from Latin America because of the lost decade and all the problems we know about, the only companies that were able to raise money from the public markets were very strong companies. So they had very nice EBITDA cash flows, not a lot of debt. Even in the Argentine default episode, some of the Argentine corporates didn't default. So
now I looked at you're working with a lot of top managers.
Yes.
So one of the
on the distribution side, right?
So one of the best-selling boutique firms, if you will, you have Fidelity, you have Aberdeen, and others that are successful in Chile. But when you look at when you look at some of one of the strongest boutique managers last year was South African-based investing.
Yes.
So you've done work with them, and also on the corporate, on the debt side. What's the work that you're doing with them on the sub-advisory, on the distribution side?
Actually, Investec has been an amazing partner for us. We work with them since 2008, and they are a truly, I would say, institutional investment manager. They really know how to cater their pooled vehicles from an institutional standpoint, and there are few managers that achieve that offer pooled vehicles, but from an institutional. So teaming up with a company that has that approach from us, that we think we know the local investor better than anybody, has been obviously it's been a winning combination.
Is that an avenue for Asian asset managers for you as well? That you
absolutely, and part of my activities here have to do with discovering new managers that we could help them tap this vast pools of savings that is developing in our region.
We definitely see it as a meta trend, Asia and Latin America, as building bridges. Thank you for being here with us, Jaime.
Thank you very much.